I'm here again today wearing a flannel shirt and a tool belt to describe how to remove a door without any specialized tools. But first, two things. First, who is my intended audience? And I must say my intended audience is me. But me 45 years ago, when I had no tools and no knowledge of how to work on the house, I only had the motivation to make things better. Secondly, why would you listen to me? Well, I'm wearing a flannel shirt and a tool belt. but actually, I bought my first house that I remodeled 35 years ago. And starting about 20 years ago, I made my living buying, fixing, and selling homes. So I have at least 2 decades of experience as a home remodeler. And let me be honest with you about both the flannel shirt and the tool belt. I use this tool belt for very few things. I use it for doing electrical work, and I use it for repairing shingles on a roof. Other than that, I never use a tool belt. And anybody who has experience would look at this tool belt and say, hey, those bags hardly have any wear. He's full of baloney, which is basically true. I do not use a tool belt. Secondly, I may start out the day in the flannel shirt, but as I get working, I take it off, and my standard wear is a cotton t-shirt with a pocket, and the pocket has all sorts of uses. So with that said, let's get started removing a door. Before we start, let's cover a few preliminary things. First off, hinges are often treated with graphite or oil and can be very dirty. So don't wear your Sunday best when you do this job. You might want to wear an old shirt, an old pair of pants, and so forth. Second, often when you move a door, you will use your foot to support it for moving or reinstallation. Wear a pair of sturdy shoes. This is not a job that you want to do barefoot. Now, why would you want to remove a door? One of the reasons is spacing. This is a laundry room, and if I go frame to door, we got 27.5 inches, a 28-inch washer and dryer, so you want to pull the door to get the things in. You'll often do this with the front door, moving in a refrigerator. Another reason is painting. You might want to get the door out of the way so you have full access to all the walls and the door frame for painting. A third reason is flooring. You might be doing carpet, tile, and you want the doors out of the way when you do that work. Another reason is a full house remodel. Generally, when I go into a house to do a remodel, I pull all of the doors. And in an instance where you're doing a full house remodel, you do want to mark your doors on their hinges. This is a laundry room, and you want to mark both sides, laundry room, LR on both. Because if you're going to put 10 or 12 doors in the garage, you want to know where they go when you put it back together. And the final reason you might want to remove the doors is a remodeler's and perhaps a realtor's trick. When you have an open house, you don't want people using the restroom. If you pull those doors off the restroom, they are not going to ask and not going to want to use the restroom with all of the resultant problems. So with that aside, let's get started. Here is all you need: a hammer and a nail. It's as simple as that. Here's our first victim. Let's get to work. Here are our hinges. On older doors, you may find a trim piece on the bottom that you would just pry off either with the end of your claw hammer or with a screwdriver. All of the newer doors will be exposed like this, and you can go in from the underside with your nail, pop out the hinge. Now, I'm a little obsessive. I put these in my pocket and I keep them in the order in which they came off of the door. Sometimes people will bent a hinge to stop a door from swinging open and closed too easily, or the hinge will just have worn its way into the door. Simple as that. Let's keep on going. Basic work is done. You can see some of the graphite that somebody might have used to lubricate this in the past. That's why you don't want to do this work in your Sunday best. I keep the hinges in my top pocket in order, and we're ready to roll. And I forgot to mention in the beginning, I do this with the door closed so it's supported when you remove it. And let's get forward and remove this door. With the pins out of the hinges, I just grab a hold of the handle, pull it back, and it's off. You can see where the shoes are useful for stabilizing the door and moving it. I put the hinge pins right back into the door, or the place where they'll get in the way least. That way you're less likely to lose them. And we're ready to put this door in the garage. When I move the door, I always use the doorknob as a handle, put one hand on the other side. You want to be sure that when you move in and out of the room, you give yourself space. To make that move. Interior doors can be handled by one person, even one person who's in his mid-60s like me. Exterior doors are heavy and you're going to want to ask for help. The very first time I threw my back out was when I was younger and thought I was macho. I was lifting a solid core exterior mahogany door and threw my back out. And it was a very hard lesson to learn. Be careful with extra heavy items. Doors in particular are dangerous because they act as a lever. And if somebody helps you, they should help very gently because they might lever that force into twisting your back out. So once I'm ready to move the door to the garage, I just tilt it, being sure I don't knock out the drywall, keep my hand on it like this, and move it to wherever I'd like it to go. So let's reverse this process and put this baby back in. To reinstall, you simply pull the hinges back. I like to keep them in order, probably completely unnecessary. And this is a place where these shoes come in handy. I don't close the door, rather I balance it, usually with my foot. Work the top hinge back to relatively where it belongs. Pull the pin, start to drop it in. If you're lucky, these all line up in a manner like that. And all you need to do is tap these in with a hammer and you are done. The final step, let's tap these hinges in with a hammer. You can see some of that graphite I was talking about. One of the reasons why you don't want to wear your Sunday best doing this job. Let's check the function of the door. And the job is done. Now, that was the job with just a hammer and a nail, a very, very basic thing. Some other tools can be useful though. I mentioned I don't use a tool belt, but I'll also throw some tools in a bucket and carry them around with me. Probably the most important tool I use as a remodeler is a pry bar. It's good for almost everything and it's good for working hinges. You also might have or want to use a punch instead of a nail for driving out the pin. I usually don't use a nail. This is the way I would usually do it. Often with a pry bar, you can go straight in on the hinge and just tap it out with a hammer. This is really nice on the low ones because I just reverse it. At that point, you can pull the hinges by hand, pull the door, and you're done in 30 seconds. Sometimes I also use an old blade screwdriver, one with a worn tip that still has good use. This is one of my good buddies. I use it a lot in demolition, to be honest with you. You can put that under the top of a recalcitrant hinge, tap it in, twist it, and get a good start. Also, sometimes a punch can be more accurate and useful than a nail in tapping out that hinge from the bottom, that hinge pin from the bottom. A little Windex and a paper towel does a good job cleaning up the graphite you've left behind. As you can see, removing a door is quick and easy. All you need is a hammer and a nail. Good luck with your remodeling project, and thank you for watching.